Hey there. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, so today we are going to talk about a kind of a hot button topic, something that we hear from students and something that we hear out in the world too. And that topic is, why do some copywriters fail? The big F word, my other favorite F word. Not favorite. No, I don't
Yeah, I was
love
gonna
it.
say, yeah.
Yeah, no.
You don't believe in this F word.
I firmly do not believe in this F word. And actually, in this episode, we're going to talk to you exactly about why that concept of failure is not real in some ways. So part one of this, we have the people that you meet at cocktail parties when we could have cocktail parties, or people you meet out and about, or when you talk to people and you say, oh, I'm a copywriter. And they say, ooh, copywriting. Ooh, that's so hard to get into. Or, ooh, I tried to do that myself and I couldn't make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that part of the concept of failure. And what have we seen has been a big contributor to that quote unquote failure there.
Yeah, a lot of these folks, I think, number one, never got the training that they needed to become a copywriter. And I think part of that is because maybe they just felt like I'm going to apply for jobs and break in and they'll teach me on the job, and didn't kind of get up. They didn't have a portfolio. Maybe they didn't, practice their skills. So they had nothing. They had no skills. And, it's very hard to land a copywriting job when you don't actually know how to write copy yet. So I think that's a bit of the catch.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Like
Right,
it would
yeah.
be very hard for me to land a chef job if I didn't know
Right.
how to cook.
Right.
Or it'd be very hard for me to become a race car driver if I didn't know how to drive a race car.
Right. And I think in other fields, to use the kitchen restaurant analogy, maybe you can get in as a dishwasher and then you become, a prep and a line cook, and then you work your way up. In copywriting, there's no real, step before a copywriter. You kind of need to have some knowledge of how to write copy before going and doing it. There's not really that like nice transition in. And especially if they've looked at agency jobs, I think in particular they can be hard to break into. But I think that's also, if that's the only place they looked or the only place they thought about, and especially without any sort of training, then yeah, it was going to be very tricky to land it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's some people who just think, all right, well, I write well and I know how to write things. I've written blog posts, I've written whatever. I'm going to, and they hear great things about copywriting. And they think, okay, I'm going to get into copywriting. I'm going to put up a website and call myself a copywriter. And as our listeners know, and as you, Kate, personally know, because you transitioned from a different type of writing, copywriting is totally different from any other kind of writing.
Yeah, so different. And I think, some clients frankly still confuse copy and content, which, as you know, we teach students, you want to know the difference, because most people do know the difference. To hire a content writer is going to be a very different skill set than hiring a copywriter. I came from the editorial world. I had a background in copy editing, also a very, very different skill set, different part of the brain entirely to do that job. And so, I was lucky to transition into it and be at a company that just happened to need copywriters at that moment and had an overabundance of folks in the editorial world. But the skill set was just wildly, wildly different.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And the way that you got into it was really kind of the exception, not the rule. It was specifically because we needed to build a copy team and we needed one like yesterday. And so we went in and we taught you guys how to write copy, but that is not how it usually works. People expect to hire copywriters who know how to write copy. And I definitely, I feel for people and I don't blame people. And I respect the idea of like, okay, I'm going to start a new career. I'm going to jump right in. I really, really respect that impulse. But really it's totally different career from any other and from any other kind of writing. And yeah, if you don't know how to write copy, you won't be able to find clients, or you'll find one client and they'll never hire you again because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. You can keep finding clients and then not potentially, wow any of them, because again, like you said, you can write, but you're not going to write what they need. And you're not going to write in a way that connects a consumer with a need. You're not going to write leading with the benefit. You might not even know what a benefit is versus a feature. And you might focus on the features, and you might focus on the company instead of their consumer. And very quickly you can write something and you can deliver something that you can say, I wrote this and it's copy, but it's not going to be effective copy if you're not doing it with intention and with the knowledge that comes from practice and from knowing, the difference between copy and just writing any old words on a Word doc.
Yeah. Well, then, by that same token, or I don't know, a similar token, if you are just jumping in and saying, okay, I'm going to be a copywriter, and you don't have a plan, a system for how to find and pitch and land and service clients and repitch clients, it's not going to work. Wishing and hoping is not a strategy. And I think that is a lot of people's hope, that it's just they're gonna I've had a couple of podcast interviews over the last couple of weeks, and this concept of jump and the net will appear has come up, and I think it's like the worst advice ever. I'm not going to, if I'm jumping off a cliff, I'm not going to bank on hoping that something shows up. I want to know that there's a net already built there. And
I'm going to build my own net if it's not.
Exactly. I'm going to build it way before I take that jump.
Yeah.
And I think that when you don't have a system for finding and pitching and landing and all that kind of thing, it ends up to being just jumping off a cliff, and there not being a net there, because you're hoping that because you mentioned that you're a copywriter, someone's going to find you, or you're hoping that you'll be able to find enough work on sites like Upwork or Freelancer, or where you have to undercut your normal rate, and you're constantly wasting time bidding on projects that aren't going to work out, and there's no quality control for clients on there either. That's a whole other topic, whole other podcast. But without a system, you can't. It's just wishing and hoping.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the other token, it's a totally different token, guys.
So many tokens.
We're
playing skee ball, or
like Chuck E. Cheese here. Oh, I miss skee ball.
Right.
But so you have the people who don't really know how to write copy, don't really know how to, don't really know how to find the work. Then you have other people who have been trained, who have been practiced, who have the system. What we hear sometimes from students in the group is, oh, I'm afraid to tell my friends, I'm afraid to tell my family, I'm afraid to announce it on Facebook, or I'm afraid to announce my new career on LinkedIn or something like that, because I'm afraid I'll fail. And that concept of failure, once you've done the training and you are practicing and you're doing the work, that concept of failure is a little bit erroneous in a way.
Yeah, I think if you let the thought of failure creep in and let it become a roadblock, which I think for a lot of people it does, they stop making progress because they get to a point where they need to either start pitching, and they maybe need to update their LinkedIn profile, and they need to put out their website, and they need to start telling the world that this is what they're doing. They don't. And then it becomes you're shutting a door at that point, and you're arbitrarily building a wall or roadblock or whatever you want to call it, getting in the way of your own progress. And so the second you stop taking action, that's when there's the potential to quote unquote fail. But in a way, I feel like fail is not even the right word there. It's just, you're stopping at that point. You're pausing, you're putting yourself on pause when you do have a choice to keep moving forward and keep taking the steps. And as long as you're still taking steps and learning from whatever is happening and getting more experience, getting more information to make smarter choices, then you're moving forward. You're moving in, and it, might not be in a straight line. Nothing really is, if you really think about it. Humans, we like to tell stories, and they like to have a in the beginning and in the middle and in the end, but nothing is actually that straightforward.
Linear. Mm-hmm.
Nothing is linear. It's very zigzag, and maybe you go back, but you're still in a different place than you were, because you know something more now. Every day that goes by, every minute that goes by, something more.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, I don't know, I'm very cold right now, so I know that.
She did the certainty in that. Yeah. The concept of failure, once you are on the path, it's not really so much failure as much as quitting. And that is 100% on you. We talk a lot about taking personal responsibility. And yeah, if you we talk a lot about resistance too. If you let the resistance creep up and you let the resistance keep you from taking action, you let the resistance keep you from pitching clients, you let the resistance keep you from maybe evaluating your pitch emails. If you sent out some and you haven't gotten anything back, not posting it in our student-only Facebook group to get feedback and see how you could update it. If you let resistance, if you let fear, if you let any of that keep you from taking action, you are effectively quitting. And that is the only way that you can fail. Because if you stick with it, I think that's one of the most underrated or maybe like hidden concepts, unknown concept, is that the best way to succeed is to stick with it. Pick whatever you want to do and keep going until you get there. It sounds so simplistic, but it's so true for just about everything. Some people are going to get to their whatever their career goals or their financial goals or whatever their lifestyle goals are. Some people are going to get there quickly. Some people, it's going to take a little bit longer. There's no way you can predict how long it's going to take you, or to Kate's point, what crazy stuff is going to happen in the middle. But the only way to quote unquote fail, which again, I keep saying quote unquote, because it's not really even failure. It's quitting. It's you deciding that you're going to let fear, you're going to let resistance, you're going to let self-doubt, you're going to let that get in the way of you reaching your goals, get between you and what you want. And so it's not, when we hear students talk about, well, I'm afraid of failure, I don't want to tell people because I'm afraid of failure. What you're really saying is, I don't want to tell people because I'm afraid that I'm going to decide to quit. And if you are already thinking that you might quit, you've got a big problem. And you need to really think that through and think about why that's already an option for you. We talk about your big why. Why is it that it's so important to you to succeed in this career? Is it financial? Do you want to make a certain amount of money? Do you want to have a career where you feel fulfilled and motivated and respected and appreciated? Do you want to have a career that allows for flexibility, that allows you to travel, or it allows you to spend more time with your family, or whatever, or any of those combinations? But if it matters enough to you, it makes it a lot easier. And if you focus on that big why, it makes it a lot easier when that resistance comes up for you to say, okay, this is resistance coming up. Nicki and Kate said it was going to come up. We talk about it a lot in the student Facebook group. It comes up, but I can move past it. And resistance will keep coming up, but I can move past it. There's no such thing as failure. There's only quitting.
Yeah. And quite frankly, what works for me is not even giving those thoughts the space. As soon as they start entering my mind, it's like, oh, nope, we're going to shut this off and let's do something, whatever it is, whether it's opening up an email to send something, whether it's adding companies to a pitch list, whether it's doing projects. If you have client work and you need to work on it, wherever you're at, whatever stage you're at, if you need to pitch a designer, just taking those actions and getting back on board is what's going to help you mentally too, to be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I just did that, and like, let's see where this goes, let's see what happens. And how many people though too in the group that we see that they're hitting that wall and they're like, oh, I can't find a designer. I've sent out this many pitches and I haven't heard back. I've, done this and, sent a quote and I haven't heard back from the client. And then when it rains, it pours. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I got 2 pitches back. Oh my God, I've got 5 designers. It will, as long as you keep, and I think so many people who are close to that breakthrough give up when they are so close.
Yeah.
So close. And so knowing that I'm going to keep moving and it's going to stink right now because, you're building an entire new career, but it will eventually snowball. You were laying the foundation and groundwork for an entire career. And so, I think the other piece of advice I have too is so many of us focus on, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they mentioned, us thinking about destinations, and yes, the end destination for this being you want to become a copywriter, you want to build your copywriting business. But because life isn't linear and it's very, squiggly, the takeaway was like, what if your destination doesn't even exist yet? Think of how many companies that don't exist yet that might exist tomorrow, 5 months down the road, whatever it is. And as a copywriter, maybe that is your destination. I'm not going to say fate in any way, but that idea of there's so much opportunity that we don't even know about yet, that hasn't even been built, hasn't even come to fruition. So focusing on what your destination is at the moment, which is, depending where you are, it's going to be very different than other people. It might be, I need to find a designer to do spec ads. I need to send my first pitch. Okay, I sent my first pitch. I haven't landed a client, so I'm going to send more pitches because I want to land my first client. And then, I got my first client. Okay, now I'm going to get my second client. And now, okay, I've gotten a couple of clients. Now I want to start setting, okay, what's my financial goal I want to hit, and how do I hit that, and how many clients do I need to hit that? What's kind of realistic for where I'm at? And then, okay, I hit this financial goal. Now let me bump it up a little more. And so really focusing on more of the immediate, what we have to do now, than focusing on things that we can't possibly know right now in this moment, where we'll end up in a month, 2 months, 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. And just keep taking action. We've said it before, we're probably going to say it 10,000 more times, if not 10 million. And that's, as you were saying, Kate, you're building a whole new career, potentially, if you want to get that high, a 6-figure career, absolutely possible. But that means, guess what? If it's not going to be easy all the time, there are going to be times where it's easy. You're going to nail a project. A client is going to serendipitously find you or something like that. That will happen. Absolutely. But you're going to have to put in effort. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes, and in our student only Facebook group, we've made it, we tried to make it a very safe place where you can, and it is a safe place. They're really fantastic people. We have amazing students, but you can share and you can and say, okay, how can I, I'm feeling a little off today. Does anybody have any words of encouragement, or can anyone offer any advice?
Or who else has been in this situation? And
exactly.
People.
But it's not always going to be easy. And there are going to be time. I mean, as with anything that matters, going to the gym, dating, marriage, anything that really matters, there are going to be times when you think, God,
there's work.
Exactly. Yeah. This is hard, or this is scary, or and I wish I could just give up. But that's the only way that you can quote unquote fail. I almost hesitate to use this quote because it sounds very dramatic, or sounds very dramatic. Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, I might not get it exactly right, but if you're going through hell, keep going. Now, obviously, there was a lot of war during Winston Churchill's during his lifetime. So that's very dramatic. And we're not saying that at any point building your copywriting career is going to be hell. But the concept is like, if you're going through something that's tough, keep going, because otherwise you won't get out of it. If you stay in it, then it's going to stay tough. The only way to get through it is to keep taking those steps, is to keep taking that action.
Yeah. Movement for sure. Sorry. I'm just picturing John Lithgow right now. So soon as you said Winston Churchill.
He was a good Winston Churchill, I have to say. I
just 30 Rock, I can't.
What range on that actor? What range? Way to go, John Lithgow. If you're out there, somehow
you're a listener of,
we'd love to bring you on.
Big fans.
Big fans. So we hope that this has helped bring a little clarity to the concept of, again, I'm going to put it in quotes, failure. Why people who've tried it say that they've failed or they've been unable to do it. Again, lack of training, lack of systems is like almost always the reason. And then why there's that fear of failure when we've got the systems, you've got the training, you've got the practice, why that concept of failure is really, it's not valid at all. It's not something that is out of your control. It's 100% in your control. And taking that 100% personal responsibility for it is super scary, but also very empowering, and what your eventual success is going to come from. So we hope that this has been helpful. We dare even hope that it was a little empowering, maybe lit a fire underneath you. We do.
Just keep going. Just keep moving.
Keep going.
It's like the little engine that could. I think I can.
Think you can. If you're going through resistance, keep going. Thank you, Winston.
And find our pump up pitch list, which I feel like is very good for moments like this on Spotify. Filthy Rich Writer pump up pitch list. Yeah, it's a good, when you're feeling down, it gets you
up and going. Absolutely. All right. We hope that was super helpful, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyrichriter.com. We'll see you next time.